So we got some new guys. We got Angry Ogre, who's a pretty good reg. We got John McLean, and we got Ziolos. And I don't know much about him. He's a newer reg. So let's see what happens. Can everybody see everything fine? Should be okay, right? So Angry Ogre 3-bets. So you see right here, I mean, the unknown player here is nl2k, so I assume he's the spot in the game. He cold calls here. It's funny because somebody in my blog asked me, so is cold calling 3-bets GTO? And I would generally say avoid doing that. I mean, in almost all scenarios, you should avoid cold calling 3-bets unless there's an insane dynamic. So a few days ago, there was a guy who opened under the gun. And like 2 minutes before, he lost his stack by shoving 4 deuce offsuit preflop. So opens under the gun, and he cut off 3-bets. And obviously, he's going to 3-bet super wide because, I mean, he can expect the other guy to shove. I mean, he cannot shove much worse, right? So he's probably going to shove a lot of hands that he can just call pretty light. So I cold call jacks, and the other guy shoves, and the other guy calls. And, I mean, normally that would be clear fold, but with these dynamics, I called, and I got it in as good as I could get. I mean, I got it in against 10s and 9s when I had jacks. So, anyway, generally you should not be cold calling 3-bets. If you ever cold call, you should cold call in position rather than out of position. That is definitely a major difference. Angry Ogre 3-bets to regular sizing. Cali talks cold call. So of course we don't know how wide he is, but probably he's cold calling a lot of like middling, higher pocket pairs, some suited aces, some suited connectors, some suited broadways, that type of stuff. Maybe some hands like ace queen. John McLean 4-bets here, quite big. So I mean, he's probably value raising here, right? Because he cannot expect the recreational player to have too many folds in his range. So why make the pot bigger out of position when you don't have that much fold equity? So he's probably still going to be bluffing sometimes, but he's not going to be bluffing super often. So Angry Ogre is, especially him in the sandwich, is going to be very tight. So King 8-6 here. This board is pretty, it's not super dry, but it's not that wet. I mean, in position, what does he have? He doesn't have hands like Ace King too often, although he could. He's going to have maybe some sets, but not too many. He's going to have a lot of okay hands on this board, but not too many great ones. So John McLean's bet small, which is fine. This queen is... Okay, so here, this queen is not as scary as it looks, but it's still not that great. I mean, it's hard for imposition to have too many flushes, but he'll have some. We said that he probably doesn't have king queen offsuit, and he probably doesn't have pocket queens. So it actually gives him more equity with hands like 9s plus heart, but it's not the worst card in the deck. Of course, this play is entirely read dependent. Okay, and Cali talk shows up with queens. I mean, so his cold calling range is a bit stronger than we thought. It includes hands as good as queens at least sometimes. And John McLean's play, I think I like John McLean's play here. I think checking to check call makes sense. And then on the river, I mean, if let's say it gets checked through on the 3, you can always get the money in, and you don't need much protection when you have the ace of hearts. So I think John McLean's play is pretty cool. Cali talks, I mean, calling and then shoving is like all right, but obviously the cold call in position is not great. I mean, Angry Ogre is probably 3-betting maybe around 7-8% in a spot like this. So against that range, he's still got a ton of equity, and he's in position, and he's also a bit deeper with Angry Ogre, which puts him in a tough spot. So I would have definitely liked the 4-bet, and also then you can easily kick John McLean out of the pot if he has like 5s or 10-9 suited, but now he has a profitable call. And since he has a profitable call, he's getting EV from somewhere, from the pot, and you guys both put money in the pot. So it automatically comes out of your stack and his stack. What do you think would be best on the turn if he had no heart? Since he's cold called pre-flop, ranges could be all over the place. He could have the hands I mentioned, like good hands, but he could also have like 5-3 offsuit, right? So it really depends on what he thinks of Mark Khaled talks. In general, I would say you should probably go for another small bet or for a check. But the thing is, since Kalatox may have a much weaker looking range, it might still be a shove. The thing is, if you shove here, Kali is probably not going to call with like 10s plus hearts. And like, you know, King Queen beats you, so he has to call you with like King Jack, King 10 or something like that. So the thing is, you're ahead quite often, but I think once he calls a shove, you're not ahead so often anymore. So what is the solution? The solution would be to maybe add a small bet, because now you're forcing him to call with the hands that you beat, and you pot control the hands that beat you. You know, and then you could still possibly fold if he shoves, although that would be a difficult fold. Here, I would say John McLean's play was 8 out of 10, and Kalitok's play was 5 out of 10. He did everything. I mean, his line post flop was pretty good, so you know, pre-flop was just a mistake.